Sometimes it's Passover and you're craving a pizza. Well, I've got the solution for you. I'm going to teach you how to make Passover pizza. Sally, that girl, in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally, that girl, in the kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make Passover pizza. Yes, pizza for Passover. So everyone knows how to make a matzah pizza. We grab a piece of matzah, add some sauce, some cheese, pop it in the oven, and we're good to go. But this pizza, I'm going to make a little more like a traditional pizza. We're going to make a dough for it using Passover-friendly ingredients, and then we're going to par bake it, then we're going to top it, and we're going to finish baking it, and it's going to be delicious and super yummy and a great idea for any night of Passover. So I'm super excited to teach you how to make it. So let's not wait another second, and let's get started. For today's recipe, you will need 2 cups of matzah meal, a half a cup of cake meal, 1 tablespoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon garlic powder, 1/4 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese plus some more for sprinkling, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 3/4 of a cup of warm water, 2 tablespoons of seltzer water, 3 large eggs, 3/4 of a cup of pizza sauce, 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, and some fresh basil leaves. Of course, you can also add the toppings of your choice. You will also need a baking tray, some parchment paper, a wet measuring cup, some dry measuring cups, some measuring spoons, a rolling pin, a medium-sized bowl, a smaller bowl, a spoon such as a serving spoon, and a large fork like a serving fork, and also a regular-sized fork. And you will also need some oven mitts. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees, making sure you have a rack placed in the center. Then you want to add your matzah meal to a medium-sized bowl. Then right on top of that, you're going to add your cake meal. And then I'm just going to use my large fork, and I'm just going to make sure that that cake meal is well distributed amongst the matzah meal. Just give it a nice mix. Now, once you've incorporated the cake meal, then we're going to move on to add some salt to our mixture. And then we're going to add some onion powder. This will definitely give it a nice flavor. And then on top of that, we're also going to add some garlic powder. Now, we're trying to bring out all this Italian flavor, all this Italian goodness to this crust. And so I'm going to be adding some Parmesan cheese right into my crust also. This is really going to make that crust flavorful, because remember, we aren't making a traditional pizza dough. So what we want to do is to infuse this dough with as many of these yummy Italian style flavors as we can. And we're definitely going to create something yummy and something savory as a base for our sauce and our cheese and whatever other toppings we add. So I'm just going to combine all of these dry ingredients really well. And then once I've brought them all together, then I'm going to start adding my wet ingredients. So in goes my extra virgin olive oil. Also will give this dough delicious flavor. And then I'm going to crack 3 eggs into a small bowl, and then I'm just going to beat those eggs really well with a fork. And then I'm going to add those right in. Then I'm going to measure out my water, and I'm going to heat it up in the microwave until warm, not super, super hot. And then I'm going to add that right on top. And then I'm also going to be adding a touch of seltzer water. I've measured that out and I'm going to add it. The carbonation is really going to help with the texture of this pizza crust since we're not using any yeast or any leavening agents. So then I'm just going to use my fork and I'm going to bring all of this together. Now notice I didn't add any kosher for Passover baking powder or anything like that. You can add a touch of that if you'd like to, but I feel kind of funny about using baking powder, even though it is kosher for Passover on Passover. I figured, it's just a week out of my life. I can do without baking powder. So I do not include that. So then I'm just using my large fork and I'm using the back of the fork, the sides of the fork to just kind of bring everything together. And then once most of it has been well combined, then I switch over to my hands and I'm not really kneading. I'm just using my hands and the dough ball itself to pick up any dry ingredients that are at the bottom of the bowl. The moisture in the dough will just pick all of that dry stuff right up. So then I just gently create a ball now that I've got all of my ingredients well incorporated, and then I'm good to go. Of course, I'm going to give my hands a little bit of a wash because I've made a little bit of a mess, and then we will proceed. So now I'm going to open up my parchment paper and I'm going to spread a sheet out onto my counter, and I'm going to make my pizza crust right on that parchment paper so that I can just put it just like that right into the oven. So then I grab another sheet of parchment, I place that right on top, and then I just use the palm of my hand to flatten out my dough. And then of course I can also use my rolling pin and I just kind of press down on this dough with the rolling pin to stretch my dough out. And then little by little, I just roll my dough out. So I'm gonna end up with an 11-inch round pizza crust, but of course you can make smaller ones, you can make little individual ones, or even mini ones as an appetizer. You can roll this out any way you want, but I'm gonna be making one large pizza, and you'll notice that once I stretched it out pretty far, I just removed that top piece of parchment because I wanna see the shape of my pizza, because this way, if it's not quite round, then as you see, I just grab a little piece from one part of the pizza and just stick it onto another part. This dough is super easy to work with. It's super forgiving. It's almost like playing with Play-Doh. It's a lot of fun. So then once we bring it all together and we have somewhat of a circle, then what I like to do is use my index fingers to go all around the edge of my dough, and I just kind of turn the dough as I work. I just turn that parchment, and then I create a little bit of a lip on my pizza because I'm just looking to have a little bit of a classic crust, an edge on my pizza as I would on a normal pizza pie, because of course this dough is not going to be puffing up. It's got no leavening agents. So I create an edge myself using my fingers, and that way it looks like a classic, beautiful pizza. So now my dough has been shaped, and look at how great that looks. It really holds its shape. It's perfectly easy to work with. And as I said, it's super malleable, super forgiving. I just love working with this dough. So now it is ready to be popped in the oven. So I bring over my baking tray and I just pull it right onto my tray, and then I grab that and I stick it on a center rack in the oven, and I set a 20-minute timer. I'm only par baking this crust, not cooking it all the way through. So after 20 minutes, I'm going to bring it out, and it's still not fully cooked, but now I'm going to top it, and I'll tell you already it smells amazing. So I brought over some of my pizza sauce, and then using the back of my spoon, I'm just gonna spread that sauce out all over my crust. Well, not exactly all over. I do leave an edge because, as I said, I'm trying for this pizza to look like a traditional pizza. So of course I wanna leave that edge without sauce on it. And then once I've covered my pizza with sauce, then I'm just gonna grab my shredded mozzarella cheese and I'm gonna give my pizza a nice sprinkling of that. I'm using about a cup, but I'm really not measuring at all. I just put as much cheese as my heart desires. I just want to make sure to give that sauce a nice coating of mozzarella cheese, because this is going to get golden and bubbly and delicious, and it's really just going to be spectacular. So now I'm grabbing it and I'm going to pop it right back in the oven. I'm going to set another timer, 25 minutes this time, to allow it to fully cook. And it's bubbling and looking gorgeous. And there it is after those 25 minutes. And look at how beautiful it looks. That mozzarella has become golden and beautiful. And it really just looks like a traditional pizza pie. Smells delicious, has all of those yummy Italian flavors, and it's just absolutely beautiful, and kids and adults alike are gonna love it. So now I just like to give my pizza a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese while it's still hot, just fresh out of the oven. And then once I sprinkle it with some cheese, then I also like to flavor it with some beautiful fresh basil leaves. But of course, this is totally optional, and this is what I like on my pizza. You can top your pizza however you like. But let me tell you, this pizza is super yummy. The seasonings in the dough and that little sprinkle of parm and that basil that I just added on top, of course, together with the sauce and that golden mozzarella, yummy, yummy. And yes, the dough is not exactly like a regular pizza dough, but it really does the trick. It's got a delicious flavor. It's got a perfect texture. You can roll it as thick or as thin as you'd like, and you can top it however you'd like, and you can cut it like a traditional pizza, serve it in slices, and it's not gonna crack all over the place. It's not just a piece of dry mozza with cheese and sauce on top. The texture is definitely more reminiscent of a traditional pizza pie. So I've sliced my pizza and I'm serving myself a piece. And really, when you look at it, it looks like a regular pizza. But remarkably, this is kosher for Passover. It's 100% Passover approved. And I'm sure it's going to be approved by adults and kids alike. It's got a beautiful edge, and it's got that bubbly mozzarella and that delicious pizza sauce. And it's really just like eating a regular pizza, almost. So now let's take a bite. So yummy, so flavorful. The texture of the crust, delicious. Perfectly topped with that yummy sauce and cheese, those spices in the crust, and that Parmesan cheese, yummy, yummy. It's super flavorful. I wish I could describe it. It's almost as if a crispy matzo ball married a delicious slice of pizza. It's absolutely yummy, super delicious, holds its shape perfectly, and it's super yummy. Totally yummy pizza on Passover. So how absolutely yummy does this Passover pizza look? It is perfect, and it is going to fill our craving for pizza when we can have a traditional pizza, but still it's gonna have all those yummy flavors. It's got a beautiful dough, and it's topped with delicious sauce and cheese, and you can't go wrong. You are going to love it. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're gonna have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Please share my recipe with your friends. And if you're not already following me on social media, follow Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest. And you can find me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and to touch that little notification bell so that you get notified every time I put up a new and exciting recipe. And I do it all of the time. There are recipe videos going up weekly, and there's so many videos already there. Just go over to my video tab and explore. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Sally, that girl in the kitchen.